guys, welcome back. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Ah, the harbor. Tons of details in this thing. This crane set, I forget the name of it, but I do have it. It's in the collection that should be linked down below. I do copy and paste those links. If you're catching it before I've even done that, wow. You're like extra awesomely special. But it should be down below. It's within that collection. Now, by all means, don't download the whole collection. Just nitpick from it if you see something I'm using that you think you could use in your cities. Now, I'm trying to think, how would I make this be really efficient? And I think in a previous episode we discussed, or I started to think, maybe I'm going to be redoing this layout of this cargo yard, because it might not be the most efficient to move those cranes with a container. Those cranes would park and then do all the lifting. And trucks, since they're more mobile, would come to the crane, as opposed to the crane coming to them. So I think we're going to be losing that inside, those two inside rows, as I sit here and mull it over. And then I'm thinking, where can I park trucks? Well, where can I park trailers that are ready for trucks to come and start their journey? Right? So there's the little trucks that move around the yard, and then there's these guys. And these guys would pick up their trailer and head out yonder for completing whatever shipment and journey these goods are meant for, right? And I'm trying to think, how might this look like? Now, I couldn't discern where it's happening in the shipyard from Google Maps, but I'm sure it has to happen, because you use those little trucks to go driving around, and then you have another truck that takes it for its long journey. I don't imagine you would have a truck driver show up in there. Maybe this is the case. You would have an actual truck driver show up to the port, pull up underneath the crane, and have that trailer loaded with the container, and then go from there. I would imagine there's more sorting that has to be done. Like this section here that we just pulled off this boat needs to go this direction. This pile needs to go this direction, and that pile needs to go that direction. I was doing a build on Twitch the other day, and I came to another conclusion or idea. So when I was building this, I was imagining the crane would just move down the line. But then the other day, I imagine the crane was more stationary and you just pushed the cars through with a rail yards tug, like a smaller engine. And you would sort them by using switches. Right, so you would switch the track. You're gonna go eastbound, you're gonna go westbound, you're gonna go northbound, you're gonna go southbound. And you would switch the track with, you know, which train they're supposed to be attached to. But more than likely you would do most, I guess maybe not. Maybe you would sort like that and not have pre-sorted it, knowing that everything in this pile is gonna go north. Maybe you would sort on the fly. It's gotten me really curious. So I'll dig into some logistics, because that's, you know, I would just make these and like look at Google Images and be like, yeah, that looks kind of okay. That looks like it could work. But now I'm like, could it really work? I mean, I'm sure people have spent many years studying how to do this. I used to work in inventory management for a very, very, very well-known company. And we were responsible for 99% accuracy. That's what we had to obtain. And it's very difficult, and you need your entire store team to do this. But I was really interested in logistics back then, and I would have to come up with in-store systems that would work for the store using knowledge that other people have taught me. Like, yes, I understand this process, but how can I make it work the most efficient way in the store with the space that I have? And then I started teaching people how to use all of their fancy technology. But I guess it could go either way. Like, you would sort it as you pull it off the truck, right? Or off the ship. I think we ended up with a crash. Or my husband was talking to me and I just left it going. Shame on me. Shame on me. Anyway, or it could have been Destiny or Donnie. Two kitties. Just meowing away, wanting attention. But this rail yard is starting to look more like a rail yard and less like a bunch of tracks. I'm using Move It to copy and paste. I'm using Command or Controls. Oh, wow, Command C. Hello, Apple. Control C to copy them, and then swap out some colors where I feel there's probably too much of one color in a spot, or there's too much similarity because I literally copied and pasted the train. Eventually we'll do some cinematics where we're going through this yard. Probably not this episode. We'll probably do like a recap cinematic, because these episodes, like this episode at the moment, is currently to date the longest, which it's pretty long. It's sitting at just under an hour, but I might just split it. I might just cut it and release both the same day, like part 1, part 2. I didn't want to spend 12 episodes doing this harbor, but I also want to show you the process, because there will come a time where I might end up skipping and you'll notice there's something in the background like, wait a minute, she didn't show that. But I mean, I guess that happens all the time, right? So yeah, maybe I will just cut it. I did do some edits. I mean, I could edit this out. We've done 4 tracks of this by now. I imagine some of these are trains that are being processed as they came into the shipyard. They're not just all outbound. There are some inbound that also have to be processed. There we go. Copy and paste, your best friend. Oh, and then I straddled that road with that. Then we can run more trucks to it. Oh, here's me cleaning it up. Look at that. I don't know if I get to the decals yet on this. I know it's a ton of concrete because in real life it is a ton of concrete. It's pretty durable. Oh yeah, I made this. This is like a maintenance facility. I just turned off the parking with Traffic Manager President Edition. Very handy mod. Whether you do the detailing like this or not, well worth your time to learn it. You know what? There is new fences now. I may revisit this and take out that fence because that's all props. I might not record that part. I'm like, what do they need for this yard? What do they need for this maintenance area? How do they get trucks in here? How do they pull trucks around? You know, is there a fuel supply? Do they fuel it inside? Well, that would be dangerous because you would let those fumes out. There's another solution to this, and that's a fueling station. It's like, okay, well, I fenced it. Now, how do we include this part? It's like, okay, now how do the trucks get into this part? Do they drive in that one entrance and they circle around? I mean, who knows? But I believe I reason it. And then I'm like, well, there has to be order to this. And I'm like, let's put down a line because that's going to help keep order, I guess. And then I'm thinking, what would safety be like? Would we need a barrier? Would these truck drivers know to not fall into the ocean? I love this barrier. I used it in my other city as the entrance to the port. Which is funny because now I'm using it here to keep people from falling into the ocean. Like, would they have a barrier? I couldn't really tell on Google Maps, but I would imagine there's some sort of barrier in some spots. What I really need is I need to get a tugboat asset that has a boat pushed to the seawall. Like, where would this guardrail start, and how would it get here, and how would these trucks get up here to the rail yard? And again, I'm using that. It's the plain street. I think it's plain street with parking. And now we're going to guide them with these arrows, because if there isn't an arrow, they might get lost. Really, I want to direct trucks to go a certain direction. If we have a new driver, if they can't follow the arrows, then maybe they don't need to be driving the truck. And now I'm reasoning, how on earth do they get through this yard? Well, they're going to have to cross the tracks. I don't know. I guess you could do an elevated platform with a crane, and you have an elevated platform that takes the trucks through. The crane picks it up from that elevated platform, moves it. Like, those platforms would be in between the rail lines. And then they don't ever have to cross and intersect. I'm not an expert. I just build stuff in City Skylines. Now I sped this up a little faster. I still think it's watchable. Some spots, when I go to look at something, might. But so far, I haven't gotten any sensation like, whoa, too fast. I apologize if it is. I know in future ones it goes back to the regular speed, which is basically 4 times. This one is 600, so that's 6 times. Like, what would you do? Like, heads up railroad crossing? You can clearly see you're crossing tracks. You are in a port. You know this, but I was trying to envision how would they do this? How would they get there? And I have them cross there as opposed to that skinny junction. I was gonna say, I was like, I'm pretty sure I messed that line up. And then I put it back, kind of. That's like 7 times the work right there. I was thinking about allowing these trucks to like ditch here But then I second guessed myself and I said, I'm going to shove them all. I'm going to make them all go this way because then they stay kind of in the confines of the port. You don't really want them having to go back out of the port to come back in the port. It's like, please don't park on these tracks. Keep clear, right? It's like, okay, now I need a building. I don't know what the building does, but I need a building and I need it right here. I think I break city ordinance there. I think at one time I tried to upgrade that station track to the better vanilla tracks, which I'm using. I don't know if I recorded it, but your station won't work if you do that because it doesn't have the switch. And I totally forgot. It's like, now what do I do here? I'm trying to fix my service painter blemishes. I still use a mixture of the they're called concrete brushes. If you search on the workshop, they're buildings that just stamp the concrete down. They're like one of the original like fillers, but they count towards your building count. And then Service Painter came out, but Service Painter has some of its issues. Like one of them was early on, it used to just delete itself when I would load into the game. It wouldn't be there anymore, so I would have swaths of areas to repaint. And if I didn't know it, you know, days later when I go back to a spot, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure I did something here. Oh yeah, look. It was mostly just when I made these large farm fields on Twitch, I'd be showing somebody the city. It's like, oh, wait a minute, this is wrong. Parking. People have to park near this facility. They have to work. There, at least it looks better, right? I think this is where I decide I should probably do a little trick. But I don't know if I do it yet or not. So I went into the asset editor and I made something called a tourist trap, which is an empty square that's a park that has a lot of entertainment and a lot of tourist draw. And then I've changed my settings in Traffic Manager to enable like not street parking, but you know, encourage them to use parking lots. But my town has 0 people in it. And when I did, I haven't done it yet, and here I'm like detailing the crap out of this ground. Oh, and I took the rails out. They're using big tires, okay? Don't yell at me. Anyway, what I did is I put a way out yonder, which I don't show this, but way out yonder, the very far reaches of the map, I put a space elevator, and it's connected to the highway. And when we run this game and we connect this to the highway, we start to get traffic and we start to get people using the parking lots. But I put these parks all over the place. There's nothing in the park. It's just a square. So you can paint it concrete. You could paint it. It could be grass. You know, it could be sand. It could be any decal or any prop you want to put down. It's not going to intrude on it. But it draws like 300 tourists, 100 of each value, or at least that's the rating that I set for, like the max or something. I don't quite completely, you know, I just figured 100 would at least get me like 5 cars that might park somewhere. I start putting these down. I'm like, this is a lot of props. And then I start to like paste it everywhere. And then I realize that they're not quite even. I'm like, oh. I think soon I realized that this is going to be a ton of props. Because each one is 3, right? So in that one spot was 9 props. In addition to, some of these stacks are props and some of them are buildings. And you're watching this, you're like, wow, that's adding a lot of, because it does, it adds some semblance. It's like, wait a minute, that's off, that's off, that's off. And I start thinking, and I think, this is where I think, and I was like, I'm gonna undo. Oh, not yet? I'm like, can I salvage this? And it's like, aha, yellow line. I just need a yellow line. I don't need all of this other stuff. It's like, and I'm gonna put it here. And I'm going to copy that again, and I'm going to put it somewhere else, and I'm going to make this box that circles the space for trailers to be. I think this is the part I'm going to change. I think we're just going to take out the whole row of containers. I could put single containers that are ready for transport. Just even from zoomed out like this, having that texture on the ground just makes a world of difference. Like, it looks a little dirty. What would be nice is if we could get, and I tried to, I got the asset editor to save my tourist trap, but I couldn't get it to save something else. Maybe now. Maybe now with less assets, it might. But it would be nice to have a few of those like concrete, like the concrete brushes, the old concrete brushes that had some worn texture already. I tried to make it, and that's what didn't save. Where you could just place it down and you could fit, you know, 8, 10 textures in that one building that would add a little bit more life to a very big space like this. I don't even want to count how many props there are, but I imagine alone that this would have easily upwards of 1,000. I'm still like finding areas that need coverage. And now we must provide light. After all, this is going to be a 24-hour operation. And I'm using that gap in between them to provide light there, and I checked it to make sure that obviously the light doesn't get hit by the crane. The crane is tall enough. But there has to be some sort of light. And I'm like, why don't I put the light on the crane? So what do you do? If your day, you know, if sunset happens at 5 p.m. during the winter, and you have a 12-hour shift, or you have a 10-hour shift, we have an 8-hour shift, depending on when your shift started, or like the sun doesn't rise completely until like 8 in the morning. You have less hours to get work done. We have this invention called lights, so, you know, why not use them? We'll probably end it here and pick up the next one, because this is about 30-ish minutes. Until next time, my name is Azili. Be good to each other.